Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi, and I am the founding attorney of of the JQK Immigration Law Firm, headquartered here in Los Angeles, California. But we help clients from all over the world, across the United States, and everything we do is online by video, email, mail, that kind of thing. So it doesn't require in-person stuff, which is excellent. It allows me to have a digital office where I can go wherever I am and still be able to help you, and my team is able to help you. They're across the world, but my other associates in Virginia. So from east to west coast, we got you covered. We come live every Tuesday normally. Today I missed the last Tuesday because I was out of town. So I'm doing some makeup live sessions to take your questions, general education purpose questions about U.S. immigration. It's Wednesday, October 22nd. Typically, we come online and have our live show at 4 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. But today, Wednesday at 3:45-ish, I'm coming to talk about U.S. immigration to see what kind of questions you have. So you can see if I can guide you on the right path. Now, I've been needing to do that coughs for a minute now for the show start. Try to keep it at bay, but I was finally able to let it out. Subdiary says, you cover Maryland? I do subdiaries. I was actually in Maryland. That's where on vacation I was at this whole week. I got back yesterday. Maryland, I didn't realize how lovely Maryland is, and a lot of trees and forests. Los Angeles is a brown desert, dusty compared to Maryland with all the trees and green and deer walking the streets, all that kind of stuff. Just the most annoying part of living in Maryland is the constant speed limit sign changes every time you go to a different street. That was very annoying. In California, every freeway, highway is 65. There's 65, 75, 55, and you go in the streets, it's 25, 35, 45, 50. It's random. And my car that I rented kept like dinging that I'm going too fast because it would know how the speed limit is. So very frustrating driving over there, but everything else was beautiful. I think I got it in a good time. Everyone keeps saying the weather gets disastrous during the winter, but this last week was beautiful. So Salvador's answer is yes. We do handle Maryland cases regularly and happy to help. My associate's in Virginia, so if she needed, she could potentially come over for a USCIS interview. But the best thing to do is go to our website, jqqlaw.com/contact. That's jqqlaw.com/contact. Fill in the boxes there so we get some information about you and reply about how to schedule a consultation and take the next steps. Having said that, we have two guides called the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide and the Ultimate Citizenship Guide. If you're interested in marriage green cards or applying for citizenship, these guides will help you a lot. We'll start working on our I-751 guide pretty soon. I've done so many videos on it. There's a lot of content. But what I recommend doing is to go to a website for the marriage immigration guide. Go to marriageimmigrationlaw.com, marriageimmigrationlaw.com. And for the ultimate citizenship guide, go to jqqlaw.com/citizenship. That's jqqlaw.com/citizenship. So let's get the show started. As I said, subdiaries, you cover Maryland. I do. Ponte asks, is issuing immigrant visas banned for Iranians? I'm hearing controversial things about it. Yeah, there is a travel ban and these visa issuance bans for Iranians with some rare exceptions. If they're athletes, for example, they might be able to get temporary work visas to do athletic events like come to the Olympics or something. If you're a spouse, parent, or a minor child of a U.S. citizen, they're supposed to be approving those. Or maybe if you're applying for a green card case, these are green cards case for those, not non-immigrant visas. But there is a travel ban Trump has issued. I don't want to go into all the nuances here. I have a detailed video on my YouTube page, Pontea. Go to JQK Law's YouTube page or U.S. Immigration Talk. And on our website, too, we have it. You have to find it. But I have detailed videos on our YouTube page about what the travel ban is and isn't. So you're aware of that. And it's something that's relatively new. We're still seeing how it's going to fully play out. Quadruple A on our regulars, I think. It says, hi, John. If an affirmative asylum case is denied while the applicant is in valid F1 status, can they reapply after their status ends or ask USCIS to refer the case to immigration court instead of denying it? So it's an interesting question. At the end of the day, it's up to what USCIS wants to do. But if you're on F1 status, you can't necessarily reapply because asylum cases have a requirement that you file an affirmative asylum case within 1 year of entering the United States and stuff, unless there's exceptional circumstances. So if it's denied, first of all, it's hard to fix it if it's denied, but you might be barred because of the time requirement, so you have to find an exception for that. I just asterisk, our office doesn't handle asylum cases, so I'm not an expert on this, but it's just general stuff. But contact an asylum attorney for that. And then you say, can we ask USCIS to refer the court instead of denying it? They have to deny it. There's no referring. They will deny it. Now, whether they'll refer it to court or not will be at their discretion. If you have an F1 status, they might not do that. They might just hang out and let you go. But most likely they'll send you over, but they'll have to deny it. They have to make a decision on it. So maybe there's an exception that says they can just send you over. I don't know. I haven't seen that. Typically, you just get denied, and then you go and do a defensive asylum hearing in immigration court. All right, let's go to TikTok and see what questions we have here. Shoot out your question if you're watching on our live TikTok channel. We're also on Instagram. Shoot out your questions, YouTube, and the like. We have a question from Daniel Abraham. Says, does USCIS wait for your 5-year green card anniversary to schedule interviews? No. I'm okay. Fan for 100. It always just works that way. So the scenario you're talking about is filing the case 90 days early of the 5-year mark. And then will they still do the interview beforehand? They can do the interview beforehand. They just can't. I don't know the rules on this. I haven't read it, but it's just never going to happen. The interview can happen whenever because the interview is not an approval. Getting the oath ceremony and having a naturalization certificate issued, that's the approval. So even if they do the interview within the 5-year mark, it's not past 5 years, they just won't do the oath ceremony because the statute requires 5 years. So I would base on that. A good question though. All right, please ask your question. Anna Maria said, "Is it safe to travel abroad with a conditional green card?" That's a 2-year green card usually for remote. That's a marriage-based green card, so they valid for 2 years. And is it safe? Generally, yeah, but it really depends on your personal background. Do you have the proper documents, passport, expired green card, and extension certificate? Do you have any criminal histories or other issues with your immigration past that could come up and be problematic now? And so it really depends on the person. And some of the information we don't have, the government has, and they make mistakes too. Now, typically, if you're my client, I never had a client where I said don't travel because we have a lot of cases where they do the marriage green card, then we do conditional green card removal, all that kind of stuff. I've never had a case where I said the clients don't travel, but I know these clients. I've reviewed all their documents, talked with them and stuff. For me to say on the internet based on just one sentence, Anna Marie, if it's safe for you to travel, I don't know. That's why you have like a trusted immigration who can talk with you. And in some cases, it might be just too risky. It depends on what it is, what your background is. HS officer mentioned oath will be scheduled 3 to 6 weeks, but it seems way longer. Yeah, they have no control over scheduling, so it's whenever they have time to schedule it. Vero says, "Can I make a copy of the naturalization certificate to have in my wallet just in case I miss my passport?" Well, for some reason on the naturalization certificate, that's the proof of citizenship. When you're a green card holder, you become a citizen. It said do not make copies, so I can only go by that, but I don't think that's enforced. I mean, you could take a photo of it. I hate to tell citizens to carry evidence of citizenship status. It's offensive to me. But under this offensive regime, then it's something you have to do. Either take the passport, maybe take a photo of it. But I can't say to make a copy because on it it's listed, do not make copies. Melly says, November applicants must interview at the U.S. consulate post in their country of residence. What does that mean? So there was a time a month ago where if you're having a green card case or a visa case, you could almost usually do at any embassy in the world as long as you have some ties to that country. For non-immigrant visas like work visas and tourist visas, it's more flexible if the embassy accepted it. For green card cases, you need to show that you could live there, have an address there, something like that. And so if, for example, you might be from Mexico, but you could do an interview in France. Just say, I'm going to do an interview in France for some reason. But the Trump administration said, no, we don't want that to happen. We're stopping that. So now you have to go to your home country of citizenship or residence to go to your interview. And for some reason, yesterday, they started emailing a bunch of people who are in line for consular processing that they have to show that they're allowed to live in the country they're in, and then to upload evidence of that, even though they have all that evidence in their documents. So we got clients from Mexico who are saying, you need to have a Mexican passport, proof that you're living there, all this kind of stuff. And we've already uploaded all that stuff. These cases weren't of controversy for it. So it's just one of the annoying things, a waste of resources that they do. But essentially, they're saying you have to go do your interview in your home country or place of residence unless an exception applies. That's part of the ridiculous time-wasting stuff that they're doing right now. As you see with immigration law, every day is different, and that's why having a good immigration attorney is handy because it's just like ridiculous stuff like this happens and it confuses people, make mistakes. I have another person, I have a couple of people right now who consulted with me. I told them what they need to do, and they come back to me and did the opposite. And I'm like, you have the email. I outline what you're supposed to do. So I just got to give it to me to do because when people do on their own, they just like drive it off a cliff. Quadruple A says, thank you. Also, does an asylum-based EAD affect F1 status since it's not open to your CBT? So the regulations, good question. There's no clear answer to this. I take the conservative approach is that if you get an EAD based on asylum and use it, that will void your F1 status because now you're working on some other status, so that one's done. F1 doesn't allow work authorization unless you have OPT or CPT. So I wouldn't recommend using the EAD. Maybe just have it handy in case really urgently you need to use it, but don't use it. And if you did, my perception is that it doesn't validate the F1 status, it violates it, and so that's out, and now you're just asylum status pending. But if you didn't use it, you just have the card, that's a different story. But the regulations are moot on this point. They're not clear exactly. So you have converging opinions on it. Deb asks, what if the petition is there and we did a congressional inquiry? Is there any pros and cons? No, just do it and hopefully it works. There's all sorts of rumors that'll cause your case to go slower if you make a request and stuff like that. Never been corroborated, in my opinion. So if you want to make a request, make a request. Tibaka says, are biometrics required for an I-130? I just got my notice. So historically, no, but that's another thing the administration is doing is like, especially for petitioners, that's the person who submits the I-130, they're asking them to do fingerprints. And so this is like a new, I mean, randomly would happen throughout the years, but this is like a more concerted thing they're doing right now. Jack says, after submitting the M400, is it too late to send I-6485 form? The I-6485, I think that's the medical exception. I don't think so. I never said no. So if someone comes to me and they want a medical exception for disabilities on M400, I just don't do that case. So I'm not fully versed in it. But my perception, I think that you can submit anytime up until the interview because the disability exception is determined at the interview with the officer. So you can bring it there. I'm trying to pull up the instructions for it, but it's gonna be hard for me to read online. But if you go to the N6485 instructions, it probably says it. Typically, a lot of for M400 is very flexible. Typically, you could add stuff, change stuff, and send it afterwards. Who should submit? But I mean, it's better send with it. But give it a try. Why not? You know. But I have to read the regulations, so I don't have an answer top of my head to confirm. But my assumption is you just do it at the interview. But I haven't corroborated that. User 16 says, I just got approved. How long does it take to get for the oath? That really depends on your local field office and when they have time to do an oath ceremony. It could be a meet same day, next day, months later. H says, been waiting 3 months. No, that's possible. It just depends on your location. Talk Purple to me says, when filing the I-130 and I-485 forms, what do you show as financial assets when sponsoring partner manages all the finances with no joint account? Well, if you don't have joint financial assets, you don't have it. Now you could be added to the accounts, the checking account, savings account, credit cards accounts, IRA accounts. There's a lot of stuff. You can be added to insurances, home insurance, car insurance, rental insurance. There's all those kind of finances as well. So there's all sorts of things that can be added. But if you don't want to merge your finances, then you do other stuff. Download our guide, the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. We have samples of documents in the addendum at the end of it. Just go to marriageimmigrationlaw.com to access that. Con says, I applied for a green card 19 months before basic asylum. How long it take to prove my credit card? I think you mean your green card, but I don't know what kind of green card case you have. And it just depends on your case and how long the government wants to take. There's no fixed times on these. Jaffwood says, after my interview and RFE was sent, how long after USCIS receives the evidence can I contact them? You contact them whenever you want. They might say wait 30 days or 90 days, but they tell you to wait 120 days, but you contact them whenever you want. Whether they'll do anything about it, unlikely, but you contact them. You're welcome, Talk Purple. Horsham says, I just got my citizenship 3 months ago, so how or when can I apply for my children? While students became a citizen, you could have applied for children. Now, how you got to submit from I-130 depends on their background, where they're at, if in the U.S. or outside, their history. But that's generally what you have to do. Best to schedule consultation. We talk about it. jqqlaw.com/contact. So, Tika, you keep asking your questions about I-130 biometrics. I've answered that. It's yes, they're doing that right now. They're requesting petitioners do it. Yes, it's recorded. It'll be on our YouTube page. Issa says, Visa R1, that's a religious worker visa. My husband had his interview in Honduras. He was placed in administrative processing. How long does it take? There's no fixed time for administrative processing. It could be a day. It could be years. All right. So a lot of people are asking the same question over and over again. I might have to start muting you because it's not fair. Josh Goldstein, good to see you. Thank you for the kind words, brother. Fight the good fight. Same to you. Let's see. Harisha says, I'm on OPT expiring in June. My boyfriend has asylum. Can we get married? As long as you're not already married, you're single, you get married. And if the asylum case hasn't been decided, you could be added to that. But talk with the attorney private to make sure everything looks good. Deb says, I did because it's been 12 months. It's about I-918B, and so I appreciate that. I don't know, Deb. I don't remember what the previous question was, but it's getting pretty tricky throwing out forms, so please schedule a private consultation. And thank you for the gift badge. Vendy says, can my son start paperwork for my husband and myself? He'll be 21 next year, August. So a U.S. citizen child applying for their parents has to be 21 years or older to file the I-130 case. So you have to wait for their 31. I mean, you can start preparing the paperwork. A lot of times people take months and years to get everything we need sometimes. Rarely, but it does happen, at least a couple months. And it really depends on your status too. So for example, if you're in the United States without authorization, that's going to be a problem because you won't be able to get a waiver. So we got to see what's going on in your background. Please schedule a consultation time. jqqlaw.com/contact is the website. jqqlaw.com/contact. Master says, when is the minimum amount a person has to make to get K1 approved in 2025 for a family of two? So for a family of two, are you talking about yourself and the fiance on K1 visa as a fiance visa, or like you already hit like yourself, a child, and the fiance, so a family size of three? Please clarify that. But with regard to the K1 visa, there's two different things they look at. Let's put it this way. When you go to the embassy interview, they want you to make 100% of the federal poverty guidelines, so it's a lower amount for Form I-134. But then once you come to the United States, you get married, they ask for Form I-864, which is 125% of the federal poverty guideline. So it might as well just from the beginning go on the higher level because that's going to be required. And for a family of two, if you're not in Alaska, you're not in Hawaii, you're not a military personnel, you have to make more than $26,437 as income in a year. Or if you're doing asset calculations, it gets a little more complicated. I won't talk about it here. But essentially, I rounded up and say 27,000 is the minimum you need to have to get a fiance visa green card approved. Not the visa. Again, the visa is just 21,150. The green card is 26,437. But depending on when, these renew in March. So in March next year, inflation is going to be higher. But that's the general idea that's happening right now for a family of two, you and the foreign national that's going to be married. Ola says, I lost my I-751 extension letter. I requested an aided stamp, and I was asked to come to the field office. Is it advisable for me to go and get it? That's a regular thing to do. Whether it's advisable for you to do it, I can't say, Ola, because I don't know your background, what issues exist, stuff. But that is what you have to do typically. You have to go inside, get a stamp for a lot of cases. Nowadays, sometimes they'll send you something in the mail. It's kind of random. Sometimes they'll send it in the mail. Sometimes go in person. We've had clients go in person with no problem, but I don't know your case to be able to say if it's advisable for you because I'm not your lawyer and I can't advise on a live TV show like this. Melly says, thank you. You're welcome. Usman says, how long will it take to get a green card through marriage with green card holder from UAE? So marriage green card cases have last month gone faster, taking 4 or 5 years. Now they're going to take less. The problem with UAE is getting an interview is really backed up. So most likely it'll take 3 or 4 years for that to happen. In a kind of an optimistic sense, it'll take 3 or 4 years. 1 year to 2 years for the I-130 to be approved. And then once it goes to the embassy, probably 2 years to get an embassy interview because UAE, Abu Dhabi is so backed up. So 3 to 4 years is the average time right now. But that all could change, get much faster, or it could get slower too. Noor asks, how do I go about getting a product from brand technically influencing on an F1 visa? School is being reluctant about giving CPT OPT, a brand technically influencing an F1 visa. Getting a product from a brand I don't know what you mean getting a product from a brand technically influencing. That doesn't make sense to me, but it's up to the school if they want to issue it. It's up to them. They have the power to issue OPT CPT. Ming says, hello, if I come to this country with an A2 and I have VAWA approval, do I need I-566 to adjust status? You probably will because you're on an A2, but I would need to look in the detail. It's not a common scenario to come on an A2 and request VAWA. Iceman says, I have a VAWA case, 6 months open. Homeland Security send me items. I sent her letter you think call. I don't know what you're saying. I have to ask a question, Iceman. Homeland send me. I call send a letter. You think I'm deport? I don't know. I don't think. I don't know about you. This is not a place to ask. Like that's a serious situation. First of all, what you're saying the question doesn't make sense like grammatically, so I can't answer that. But that's a really deep situation. If you're in trouble, I got to review your documents. They are not giving protections that people typically do when they have a VAWA case pending under this administration. It depends on your background and what the letter says, but it's not clear what it says from what you wrote it. Maria asks, I can see a job discrimination with people who have legal work authorization. I applied for 50 jobs, none of the interview. Can you explain? Well, when you apply for jobs, you don't have to tell immigration status. That's illegal for them to ask that from you, at least in California. And so if you get no interviews, you shouldn't even bring up work authorization. So the work authorization would only come up once they hire you or close to hiring or something like that. Now, sometimes they'll ask questions in the questionnaire when you're getting like the resume that says, do you need a sponsorship for this job? but you don't if you have work authorization. So there's no way there you should know that you got work authorization unless you're telling them for no reason. And then, so there might be a mistake on your part. So, or, I don't know. I hate to be mean, but maybe it's something, it's not you. It's not them, it's you, maybe. I'm sorry, Maria. Ola says, my I-751 case has been pending for 2 years, 1 month. How long will it take to be approved? Case around center, 2 to 3 years typically. So that's like normal timeline. Rami says, what option do I have under 245 grandfather if I'm unable to recover my father's approved I-140 in 1999? Not much. You got to get that proof. So try doing a FOIA. Unfortunately, the Trump administration is very difficult to get a good FOIA now, but free information request. Osman says, from Pakistan. Pakistan is just as bad. Iceman says, I have a VAWA. Homeland Security send me a call center letter appointment. It's normal. I don't know. A call center, you might mean ASC, a fingerprinting appointment. That might be what you mean. So that might be normal. I don't know. I have to see what it says. But our office is not a big VAWA law firm, so I recommend consulting with attorneys who do a lot of VAWA cases. We don't do that often unless it's an existing client that needs it. Noor says, I'm working online on social media, getting paid by getting free products instead of money. So how you get paid on like OPT and CPT doesn't matter per se. So that shouldn't be a reason. It has to be related to your major because you could not get paid on OPT. So they could be free gifts they're giving you. You're just working for free and they're giving you gifts. So that could be that. But what the school says, but OPT and CPT don't have a payment requirement. You just have to be working. Murray Fan says, we just got my father's NBC letter. We originally selected Yerevan for his interview location, but it's switched to Abu Dhabi. Do you recommend changing the interview location? Yeah, they always do that. When you select Yerevan, they'll switch it to Abu Dhabi for Iranians if you're already Iranian. And we 100% of the time ask that it be switched to Armenia, or if client really wants it, Ankara, because Abu Dhabi has the most backed up embassy for Iranians. So I don't send anyone there. Plus, it's expensive to go there for the interview anyways. How long does I-566 process take? There's no additional time for the I-566 to go through. It's just an additional thing you submit with your application to just give up the protections associated with your visa qualification. So it's just part of the process. Doesn't add extra time. Samson says, how much does it cost to file for a green card for your mom when you're in the Army? Just the regular fees. There's no exceptions for the fees. So I-130 petition is, I don't know, $620. If it's on, you're going to send it by paper, $675 or something. And then $1440 for adjustment status plus medical. So there's no decreases. Rami says, hi, do you take detention defense cases? Unfortunately, I don't. It's really hard finding a lawyer that will. But best of luck, fortunately. Lana says, is an interview before I-130 is approved normal when I'm sponsoring my parents? Yeah, they'll do that a lot of times. Noor says, got it. Thank you. You're welcome, Noor. I hope that answered the question well. We're we have a half-hour show, 23 minutes in. If you have some final questions, let me know. We got 7 minutes to answer questions about U.S. immigration. Best thing to do in these more complex or just real information is to go to our website and schedule a consultation. You go to our website, jqqlaw.com, and click on the contact link, or just go to jqqlaw.com/contact and then fill that out. And then we'll respond to you, let you know what's going on once you have more information about your case and yourself. And if you're interested in a marriage green card case, that's our focus. We have a guide, 70 plus pages. Go to this website, marriageimmigrationlaw.com, marriageimmigrationlaw.com, and download the ultimate marriage green card guide. You'll be amazed at what's in there, and then schedule a consultation after you read that. And also, we have the same kind of guide we made for citizenship, naturalization, called the Ultimate Citizenship Naturalization Guide. Go to jqqlaw.com/citizenship to download that one. You'll be amazed. Like, wow, this attorney's giving all this information. Yes, I am. And then if you want to schedule a consultation, hire us. Then you do that, but you need to know the basics for yourself. Lana says, is anything to be worried about? How do I prepare? How do you prepare? I mean, you got to make sure your documents are in order, birth certificates, marriage certificates, divorce certificates, all that kind of stuff. The parent should be able to speak English or have a translator and to, be able to talk about it. Sometimes they schedule these things and it's just you go in and approve immediately. But it really depends on your background and what nuanced issues you have. Some people just do terrible jobs at interviews, even though everything is legit. So it's like, a lot of times prepping just to be able to calm down. It depends on your unique situation. So schedule a private consultation. We'll talk about it. Campton says, what is the process to apply for a fiance visa? Well, Campton, that's the ultimate marriage green card guide we have right there. We have a chart, goes over it, everything. 70 plus pages. Go to marriageimmigrationlaw.com to download that guide, marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Vicky says, hey to you too, and thank you for the gift badges, Vicky and Campton. I appreciate it. Sam, thanks for sharing the live feed. Please, everyone else, please share the feed so other people can learn that they can ask questions here. We only got around 5 more minutes of question time, so let's just get it in. Two Head says, can my client become stateless after applying for asylum currently on F1? Statusless after applying for asylum. Can your client? You should know that if you're handling clients, but no, just filing for asylum does not take away from your F1 status. You could keep maintaining the F1. You have asylum pending. Vicky says, I-751 after biometrics, how long is the process? There's no timeline association between the biometrics and how long it takes to get the actual I-751. But thank you for the badge. How much is the consultation? So, Lana, please schedule, go to our website, contact me, and I'll let you know there. It varies for different types of cases. And so I don't want to say a fee here that other people say it's always said something else. Plus, the year is ending. We're going to be increasing our consultation fees soon. So I don't, this is recorded online. I don't want to have a fee that people will complain I said I lied or said something differently. So please go to the website and we take it from there. jqklaw.com/contact. Just to let you know, this is the 300th live episode we've done. So that's a big milestone right there. Now, Abby says, my asylum case is pending. Am coming illegally. My fiance is a citizen. I apply I-130 status. Will it change in the U.S.? Well, if you're in the U.S., you have asylum pending, but you enter without authorization. Your spouse filed for your fiance's. My fiance is a citizen, applied to I-130. So you're not fiance anymore. You filed I-130, you're married. So there's a lot of errors in this. So you should talk to immigration before you have done anything. And if you have a asylum case pending in your court, there's a higher standard. You got to request a waiver. It's a really complex situation you got yourself in. 100% talk with the immigration attorney, knows what they're doing to get that in. Now, though, thank you for the gift badge, gifter number 2 badge. Just got the number 2 gifter badge. I appreciate that. I'm not sure what the number 2 gifter badge is, but everyone who's been giving it to me, I appreciate that. Hopefully, it's a nice and positive thing. But Navi, because one is you can't adjust status if you enter with authorization in the United States. So you got to see how that's working out. And you're saying a fiance, I-130 is for marriage cases, fiance visa. So it doesn't make sense that your fiance, you might be just mistyping this stuff. You're used to calling her your fiance, him or her. But we got to see what's going on there to be able to answer that properly. And if you're in immigration court particularly, or you have a hearing pending for your asylum case in immigration court, there's heightened standards. So you have to have more marriage evidence. You have to ask for like a waiver. And so it gets pretty complicated when people do it on their own or do it with the lawyer doesn't know what they're doing on these kind of cases. Now, we don't typically handle it if it's a court, but we give you some guidance there. Now, he says, now married legally 4 months ago by hearing pending. So again, how long does a waiver take? A waiver is going to take a long time, many years, but you're in court already. So that's problematic because they're probably going to deport you if your asylum case doesn't work out before you have time for a waiver to be approved. They're under previous administration, they would just terminate your case, but now they're not doing that. So you're in a very difficult situation, 100% need a lawyer. I-130 needs additional paperwork to get approved because you have a hearing and potentially you file for I-130, you got married after your hearing date, that could be problematic. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be reviewed. We don't handle immigration court legal work or asylum cases. So although I give general guidance on this, I'd recommend consulting with a local attorney to come to court with you, but that does immigration court. So you just, stick with one person instead of jumping around. Unless you want second and third opinions, that's always it's not a bad thing. It's expensive, but it's not a bad thing to do. All right, we got 2 more minutes left of our live show. Please shoot out a question here. We'll probably do another pop-up before next Tuesday. Normally, our live show is Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to take your questions live by U.S. immigration law. There you go, that lead. Thanks for joining us. Rob the Pod says, question, mom files for N600 USCIS wants proof from the 1960s. We have passport and 3 affidavits. Yeah, you need more than that. You need evidence. So that by itself is not enough. It depends on what basis the N600 is, like the background. But that's usually, but what you tell me, 3 affidavits and a passport, that's not going to cut it, whichever method of N600 you're doing. Osman says, came out of B1B. See, these things seem really, people do N600, I think it's really easy, and then this kind of stuff happens. So unfortunately, it's hard. I don't mean to be like cruel or mean or something like that, but these things are always more complicated than immigration. Even the easiest cases become hard. Usman says, came out of B1B2, changed my status to F1 while staying in the U.S., so can I go back home on I-20? DSO signed it? Yeah, you'll need to get a visa to come back home unless you're Canadian. And whether they'll give a visa or not, I don't know. I don't know your background, and embassy could always not do that. So it's not about having as evidence. If you have an I-20, you're going to school, that's all the evidence you need, but there's other stuff, background stuff. So for example, if you enter the U.S. and you did change of status like a month after, like a day after you came, you applied for schools and request a change of status like 2 weeks after coming, the embassy could deny you for fraud, saying, oh, you didn't really want to come as a tourist. You're just going to go to school there. So you lied to us, get a visa. You lied at the border. So they accuse you of misrepresentation or fraud. So there's all these tricky things you wouldn't even think about that are there. That's why you got to have an immigration attorney on this stuff that knows what they're doing. Ike says, how long does it take for I-565 replacement, naturalization? Check out USCIS.gov for the current times. With regard to how long, it's just so random, we can never say. Now, Ivy says, I'm living in the U.S., 7 years in the U.S. with no criminal history. My asylum taking time, so now I'm thinking to get a green through my wife. Only question, will this leave this country possible change of status? You might have to leave if you didn't enter lawfully. So it's like a whole thing to review that you should have a lawyer with in private. There's enough stuff going on there that there's things you're not even thinking about that you got to worry about that inside that fact pattern that gets more complicated that can be dived into here. Rob the Pod says, yeah, we searched everywhere, nothing. They asked for proof of my grandma that she lives 1 year in the U.S. You got to have that evidence. Maybe get an investigator. Have someone knows what you could search, but it's like we do this stuff, and I don't know if I can help you in this case because 1960 is a long time ago. But there's records, sometimes Social Security records, sometimes there's home ownership records, mortgage records, medical records, police records, all this stuff that I may be able to pull out to be able to get that approved. But you might not have thought about it, didn't know how to investigate it, where the records would be, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot going on there, but maybe you can. Well, hopefully that's not the case. Abu Saber says, does the Army give the best background check for crimes? I don't know what, it's a secret, like what they do background checks. I don't know. User 7 says, came out of B1, B2 in 2000. Now I-94. My mom lost it. Does that affect AOS? I have legal entry. You need to have proof of some sort of legal entry. So maybe if you have your visa, maybe if you have a stamp in your passport, maybe there's an online I-94. I'm not sure in 2000 they have that. Maybe you request records from CBP. It's probably not going to come, or if it does, it'll take too long. Maybe find other evidence of affidavits, plain trick. You got to try to find something to show lawful entry. Navi says, can I apply through you? Navi has saying, I don't do removal in asylum cases, so I recommend just having an attorney that does those, so they give you deeper advice than I can give. Mohammed says, I have 2 passports. How risky is it to get denied on asylum? Is the interview too early? How risky is denied on asylum? I'm not sure what you mean. I have 2. How risky is what to get aside on denied? So I'm not sure what you're saying. User 707 says, I have a stamp. So I got to see the documentation myself, user 707. But if you have like an admission stamp, that is proof of entry. So you don't have to have 994. If you have the stamp, that should be enough, unless the officer wants to be a jerk. Now he says, any ICE still catching people asylum cases pending under court? Yeah, unfortunately, they're doing stuff like that. So it's a very crappy situation. Sorry. I should have better information, better news. But everyone, thank you so much for joining. We're past the 30-minute mark. I'll be back again for sure this coming Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific. But follow us on our YouTube page and TikTok, wherever you're watching this. So you get notified when I have another pop-up. Hopefully, I get another 30 minutes in to make up for the 2 live sessions I missed out, because we do this every week for the last 5 years. And God willing, we'll do another 4 or more to help you answer your questions about U.S. immigration law for general educational purposes, not intended as individual legal guidance. Thank you so much, everybody. God bless. Be safe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.